Thanks for having me this evening. Just as a very quick introduction to me, so I'm the founder of Private Practice Surgery. It's a business and marketing membership for consultants in private practice. So we provide courses, resources, quick win guides, social media template posts, PR opportunities, monthly Q&A, like all sorts of bits and pieces to help you grow a healthy private practice. I like to think of it as really Amazon Prime for your private practice, as there's just tons of benefits you get with membership. I should also say that I've got some free resources at my site, healthyprivatepractice.co.uk, such as articles, downloads, and a Facebook group. So please do feel free to check those out if you want to. I say that really just to give you that bit of background as to who I am and why I'm talking to you today. So one of the main things that we offer in membership is my signature program, the Marketing Essentials Pathway. It's a collection of 8 individual courses that make up what I think are the foundations of a healthy private practice. So today I thought I'd run through a few of those foundations. And I say that just because we're a bit limited on time. We've also got Doctify with us to cover reviews. But I think these stages are really important because in my experience, even the most established consultants can benefit from looking at their private practice through this lens, because at the end of the day, you went to medical school, not business school, and you trained to be a doctor and not a marketer. So not all of this would have been immediately obvious to you at the time. So as we go through, I've picked out some 20 odd top tips that I'll share with you as we go through. So let's get started. So one of the first things we look at in stage 1 is around mindset. And there are so many things to think about here. Your relationship with money and your feelings about money in healthcare is often a major one. So as patients, we're very lucky to have a healthcare system where you never have to talk to us about the cost of our care and the treatment. So suddenly thinking about how much you'll charge for appointments and treatment and talking about costs with your patients, it can feel a little sort of slimy and awkward for consultants who are new to private practice. So my first tip here really is to reframe what it is that you're offering. It's not really the healthcare or the treatment that they're buying, it's the faster access, the private facilities, the peace of mind, and the guarantee of seeing a consultant. And by doing this, it frees you from that sort of awkward feeling about exchanging money for healthcare and allows you to focus more on the service and the experience you're offering your patients. And that's a really great mindset for running a business, which is, of course, what you're now doing. And on this subject of money, the next top tip really is to sort of separate yourself from that money side of things. So, ask a medical secretary to handle pricing and communicating that with that information with patients, and use the hospital booking teams too. I'm sure they'll be very happy to talk pricing with patients, and that means you can focus on doing what you do best, which is looking after your patients. And that segues quite nicely into the next one, really. So, I'd sort of like you to all recognise that as the business owner, you are responsible for all the aspects of your business, and you need to know an awful lot of things, but it doesn't mean you have to do all of those things. You can outsource them and work with the people around you. And talking of money specifically, you can further distance yourself from the money conversation and the money side of things by outsourcing your billing and invoicing to a specialist collections company, for example. In fact, it is something that I recommend you do, and it allows you and your medtech to focus on providing that great customer service. Please do feel free to check out my supplier directory on the Healthy Private Practice website if you need help finding a supplier for billing or for anything else. So, as I've touched on already, a big thing I always try to get across to consultants in private practice is that you are now running a business, and that's a very different mindset to turning up to work and the patients are queuing up around the corner and you don't have to think about secretarial and admin support, practice management software, financial accounts, and everything else that comes with running a business. That may seem like I'm sort of stating the obvious, but I do see a lot of consultants essentially running their private practice like it's just another NHS shift, like it's just another job. And that's fine to do if that's what they want to do, of course, but they probably won't make it the financial success it could be. And perhaps more importantly, like, where's the fun in that? You get all the downside of running a business, all the admin and bureaucracy, but not so much of the upside. So my next top tip really is to exactly that, recognize that you are running a business and that you're responsible for all that that entails, but embrace it. Yes, it brings responsibilities and obligations such as preparing accounts and adhering to other legal requirements, which can be quite dull. But running a business also brings excitement and opportunity and financial freedom, and it can be thrilling and a great way to take charge of your future. I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, so I just wanted to say it all the same, just in case there's a penny drop moment for someone. So mixing it up now. So in stage 1, we also talk about patient personas, and I walk members through creating their own. So a patient persona is a customer or a patient persona or customer or marketing persona is a fictional, generalized representation of an ideal customer. And I absolutely recommend that you create one for your patients and maybe even for your GPs and referrers. You can even give them names. Like, this is just a brief one to give you an idea, but let's say you're a foot and ankle surgeon and you've got patient Jane. She's a runner with bad ankles. She's a member of a running club. She competes in organised runs regularly. She's in her 40s and her kids are a bit older, but they're still at home. She organises her family, makes the decisions about her family's healthcare. Now, I can almost guarantee that some of you might be rolling your eyes internally at me, thinking that it's all a bit fluffy and you just don't have time for things like this. But trust me, like, you will have more chance of success of a successful business if you take the time, if you really take the time to think about who your customers are, who your patients are, how you can reach them, what their challenges are, and how you can help them above just treating them and their condition. And it has practical applications too. So from a business and marketing perspective, it will help you define your proposition or your service offering, because you're creating it for Jane and not a generalized patient population. It might seem counterintuitive to present yourself as just for Jane, but you'll be much more likely to achieve business success if you do, rather than trying to appeal to everybody, because what happens is you end up appealing to nobody. Most consultants and business owners in all industries, to be fair, they worry they'll lose and they'll miss out on the non-Janes, but it never actually ends up working like that. As another example, when you have a patient persona, it makes the task of writing your profile or your biography a bit easier too, and it certainly helps you write one that's more effective. So the next top tip really is to write your biography for Jane or whoever your patient persona is, not for an unidentifiable general mass patient population. Because instead of a generalized CV style bio that you naturally default to, because you don't know who you're writing for, you don't know who's reading it, or who you want to be reading it, when you write one and you're writing it with Jane in mind, suddenly it becomes easier, and you can talk directly to her, and even have a more relaxed conversational tone when you're in your written profile. And you can even talk to her in the first person. So you can say things like, as long as these are true, of course, but you can say things like, as a keen runner myself, I like treating other runners, or I've helped runners get back to competing, from following up with runners several months after their treatment, I've got an insight into what works best, or I partner with great sports physios to give real specialist care for runners. You see the type of thing that I'm saying, but that still sounds fantastic to me as a non-runner, and I'm still going to prefer that consultant over sort of more generic lines like, I have extensive experience in foot and ankle surgery. You can still say those things, of course, but sort of those extra specific details that brings your profile to life, really, and it makes it sound engaging and interesting, and it shows how you've sort of tweaked the proposition or your service to fit a particular person. It's added a bit of story to your journey on how you've become the best consultant for Jane right now, and you could even say it shows an above average interest in your patients, because you want to get those details right for them. Excuse me. Now, I know that you're all very interested in your patients and their outcomes, and you do really care about them, but not many of you will communicate that or show that through your written profiles. So tip number 9 really is to put a lot of effort into your bio and even consider working with a writer to craft the perfect profile. In fact, going straight into tip 10, if you need convincing about the importance of your written web profiles, please do check out my video on YouTube, the underappreciated power of the hospital profile and how to get the most out of them. In it, I highlight research from which that shows that the overwhelming factor when making a decision about private healthcare is you, the consultant. So how do they know who to choose? Well, they do their research by reading your profiles. And then when you look up the website visitor numbers for things like Bupa Finder and other insurer directories, hospital group websites, like their traffic is huge. Like we're literally talking millions of people. And that's free marketing for you, these profiles, on prime online real estate. So what I'd love you to do is just take advantage of that more than most other consultants do and have a really, really great written profile. Okay, so that's stages 1 and 2 of my marketing essentials pathway, the launchpad and creating the perfect profile. Let's now look at stage 3, which is all about insurers. So my first tip here actually is about registering with the PPR, the Private Practice Register. As I'm sure you know, it's run by HealthCode, the invoice processing organisation. It will save you loads of time in managing your business relationships with insurers and hospitals. Every organisation needs ongoing information from you, usually for maintaining recognition with the insurers or maintaining practicing privileges. You know all this. But you'll be sharing a lot of the same information with all of them, like your medical indemnity insurance certificates, for example. But rather than send it out 20 times, you can upload it to the PPR once and you can grant access to it to everyone who needs it. But that's not all. That's not the main reason why I'd like you to sort of keep up to date with the PPR. So something really big is coming from HealthCode. As I'm sure you know too, the private healthcare sector really lags behind other industries when it comes to managing bookings. So, for example, thousands of travel agents can sell the same seat on a plane, but technology means that it doesn't actually get sold thousands of times. This doesn't happen in our sector. Like your medtech, insurers, online booking, a hospital, they could all sell the same slot to see you and then just cause your medtech a huge headache in trying to sort it all out. You might also have to use several diaries across the week, like one for here, maybe for another clinic down the road. These are the challenges that HealthCode are trying to solve with a soon-to-be released product called ICE. But it will work from your profile on the PPR. So I really recommend you got to get ahead of the game and ensure your PPR profile is ready and well maintained and up to date, so that there won't be quite as much work for you to do when ICE comes along. Okay, so let's talk more directly about insurers. So whether we like it or not, we know that insurers are increasingly controlling which consultants their members or their customers end up seeing. And these decisions aren't by accident, and in fact, they're made very carefully. Insurers use lots of data points to decide whether you'll get referrals from them, from more obvious ones like being fee assured or having an average length of stay per procedure, to less obvious ones like how flexible you are to work with, and in the case of Bupa and Vitality, the strength of your online presence on their online directory. I can't help you with your average length of stay, of course, but I can help you with online directories. And as I'm sure you know, Bupa Finder is the biggest and most established directory. If you do work with them, then let's make sure that you tick all the boxes and give their Finder tool every reason to show your profile in the search results. So the top tip there then is to go to finder.bupa.co.uk and search for Finder demonstration in the specialist name field. And then really use this profile as the benchmark for your profile. So compare yours with this one side by side, and wherever the demonstration profile has some content, make sure your profile does too. I could probably include 100 sub tips under this Bupa Finder tip, like verifying your profile annually or whenever they ask you to, and have a recent photo, and use the same one across all of your profiles, actually, if you can, because it's about making you recognizable. But for the sake of brevity, essentially, all you need to do really is to make your profile as complete as possible. Fill in all the fields, and the algorithm behind the search engine will favour you. But of course, your profile will also be more engaging for potential patients too. Okay, so let's quickly move on to hospitals, which I cover in stage 4. And I want to ask you a question, really. So do you think the hospital inquiry or booking teams know your practice well enough for you to confidently book a patient into your clinic? I think it's easy to assume that they've been fully briefed as to your special interests when you joined, but that doesn't always happen. And so just try and put yourself in their shoes for a second. They have a patient on the phone, they're looking at consultant diaries, that they know that Mr. Reflux sees patients with GORD. They think that you might do too. They're under time pressure, the patient is waiting. What do? Human nature says that they'll book the patient in to see Mr. Reflux. So what's the fix? Well, it's a really simple chat every few months. Just have a quick catch up with the teams and bring some biscuits. That's always a good thing. Don't go in all guns blazing, of course, but just sort of gently remind them that who you'd like to see in clinic. Yeah, so it's as simple as that. Help them be the best representative of you that they can, because they're an extension of your unofficial sales team, really. So they need to know your practice really well. And that's an example of my next tip, really. Think of the hospital teams as an extension of your own team. Obviously, they're not your staff, so you can't treat them like they are. And they'll have lots of other consultants wanting a piece of them too. So do remember that. But everyone at the hospital wants you to do well at the hospital. So if you can work together to achieve that outcome, then it's a win for everyone. So I'm talking if marketing or business development managers, GP liaison, patient inquiry teams, self-pay teams, whoever it is, it will pay to have a really great working relationship with them. And as I said, if you all pull together in the same direction, i.e. your mutual success, then it's a win-win. Okay, so stage 5 for me is all about GP and allied health professional referrals. We spend a lot of time talking about how to create CPD education and CPD education that gets you more referrals. I'm a big fan of GP and AHP education, so please do take up every education opportunity you can. If you do it well, then you'll become their go-to consultant for your specialty, and they'll essentially be your field sales team on the ground too, referring patients into you. I know many of you may have tried it before and perhaps felt that it didn't work, or maybe even feel more strongly that it was a waste of your time. But my number one tip here really is that please don't do one session and expect instant results. And if you don't immediately get referrals, just don't dismiss it as something you shouldn't do. And that's the same with any marketing activity, really. Like, you can't do one press release and expect to be in every newspaper and be famous. And you can't do one advert and have the brand of Apple. Building a business and a reputation or a brand takes time and, most importantly, consistency. So looking more specifically at primary care education, and I hope I don't sound patronising here, I don't mean to, but I'm sure you already know this. But really consider who the audience is when writing your educational talks. I've seen consultants talk about sort of new surgical techniques or new technology or robots or lasers that they use to treat patients in their secondary care setting. But to put it bluntly, the GPs and other primary care professionals just don't really care about that. And why would they when they're rushed off their feet trying to treat patients in primary care? So work out how you can be genuinely helpful to them in their role in primary care. So can you help them diagnose something tricky? How can you show them how they can manage a certain condition in your specialty? Can you enlighten them what the care pathways are when it needs escalating to secondary care, or when they should refer to a consultant like you? It's this type of information that is really useful and will help you stand out to them as referrers in primary care. Thank you very much for for listening. I know I said an awful lot there, probably in a short amount of time, and I think some of it, or maybe even a lot of it, like you all already know. But I really hope that there was at least one or two nuggets or things in there that you can take away. I'm more than happy to take any questions, or if you'd rather ask me directly, then please get in touch via LinkedIn or by emailing me on chris@healthyprivatepractice.co.uk.